Today's testimony comes from a young brother, and what he went through sheds light on us. So, I will start reading it right away. Hello, my name is Emmanuel Fernandez, and I went through this experience in September 2023. I had just graduated from school and started working in the entertainment industry. At first, it didn't take long for me to realize that I wasn't really connecting with my coworkers. But over time, I noticed something was missing in their lives. They showed no respect or fear of God in anything they did. At first, I didn't mind much because it seemed typical for our industry. However, their carefree attitude towards spiritual matters began to affect me in ways I never expected. Before long, I found myself caught up in things I never imagined. We spent our days juggling intense work schedules, attending wild parties, staying out late into the night, drinking, and sometimes even using drugs. Casual hookups and reckless behavior became the norm. Deep down, I knew I wasn't on the right path, but I convinced myself it wasn't so bad since everyone else was doing it. Looking back now, I can clearly see how my friend's influence pulled me further away from God, and I allowed it to happen without much resistance. It's crazy how easily the devil can deceive someone. I had become so accustomed to this lifestyle that the lines between right and wrong started to blur. It wasn't long before things exploded. My boss, Gustavo, had a temper like no one I'd ever met. Being around him always felt like walking on eggshells. Just the smallest thing could set him off. Most of us tried to avoid arguing with him, but one day, things took a different turn, and everything got out of control. The incident started as an innocent conversation in the office. We were all gathered there, cooking and chatting like usual. If I remember correctly, something about my paycheck came up, and I accidentally let something slip that caused his expression to change in an instant. Without understanding what was happening, we started arguing. He began with a few harsh words, but his anger escalated quickly, and there was no way to calm him down. I tried to soothe him, but it was too late. We were in one of those moments where Gustavo couldn't control his rage. He stormed towards me, shouting right in front of everyone. People around me chose to stay silent. No one stepped in. Everyone looked terrified because they knew how things could end when arguing with Gustavo. But this time, things went really differently. Gustavo shoved me hard, and I stumbled. I lost my balance and fell out of the office's large window. Everything felt like it was in slow motion. The world stopped, and all I felt was fear and adrenaline. During the fall, all I could think about was my life and my actions. The clearest thing I felt was immense regret. I realized how far I had drifted from God and how I had completely ignored Him. The next moment, I found myself on the ground, but it wasn't this world anymore. It felt like I had left my body and my soul was free. At first, everything was blurry. I was in pain and confusion, but as my vision sharpened, the scene around me horrified me. Flames were rising, and the screams of spirits echoed in my ears. I was in hell. I had no doubt about it, because this place was exactly as described in the Bible. Amid the flames, I saw writhing spirits, once people who lived on earth. Watching them, a wave of regret washed over me. They were all helpless, filled with pain and fear. But the spirits weren't just enduring physical torment. The emotional anguish was even more evident in their eyes. A deep regret filled them when they realized they had wasted their opportunities on earth and ignored God In that moment, I understood how powerful regret can be. These spirits weren't just suffering in the flames. They were consumed by the overwhelming realization of their mistakes. It was clear that each of them had had chances to change, but they had let them slip away, choosing worldly pleasures and ignoring their Creator. I could feel their pain, their sense of lost time, and I realized that this could be me too if I didn't turn my life around. This regret had turned into endless agony. But what I witnessed in hell wasn't just flames, pain, and screams. There was a sound, an eerie melody to be precise. At first, I tried to ignore it, but it grew louder and my fear deepened. The melody seemed strangely familiar, but as I listened more intently, I realized it was a song, one that I'd heard countless times on Earth. The haunting realization washed over me. It was one of my favorite songs, echoing through the darkness. As I strained to listen, I realized that this was not a random song. It was something more sinister. The very songs I had once loved were now being used as tools of torture in hell. The demons, I realized, were using these familiar tunes to punish the souls who had once worked in the entertainment industry and rejected Jesus. These melodies, once a source of joy and entertainment for many, had transformed into instruments of suffering. Among the most recognizable tunes were Michael Jackson's Thriller, Madonna's Like a Prayer, Lady Gaga's Bad Romance, Rihanna's Umbrella, and other popular songs, many of which were opposed by the Christian community. But now, these songs had lost all their joy and became torturous melodies. The very songs that once thrilled me, that I danced to and sung along with, now filled the air in this nightmarish place, twisting into something that inflicted unimaginable pain. Each note seemed to cut deeper into the tormented souls. For many of these spirits, the songs were memories of their past lives, of times they had embraced the fleeting pleasures of earth, only to find themselves in an eternal nightmare. These were the souls who had loved these songs while they were alive, but now every beat, every melody made them feel the deep, excruciating pain of hell. They could no longer escape it. The songs, once an escape, now pushed them further into torment, spiraling them deeper into the abyss. The spirits tried desperately to escape, to silence the music, but the melody kept playing, an endless cycle of pain and regret. The demons had found the perfect way to torment the souls of the entertainment industry. The very songs that once filled their lives with pleasure were now the instruments of their eternal suffering. As the music played, the souls writhed in agony, each note cutting deeper into their hearts. For these lost souls, the music was no longer entertainment. It was a tool of torture, a trap they could never escape. In that moment, I understood the dangerous power of music. Something we had always seen as entertainment, as a harmless escape, had become a weapon of the enemy. Music had the ability to distance a person from God, to lead them down a path of destruction. For those in hell, every melody was like a dagger to the heart. The songs, once loved and cherished, had become the source of their eternal torment. But the music in hell wasn't just limited to pop hits. As I continued to listen, I heard the dark and brooding sounds of rock music reverberating through the air. Metallica's Enter Sandman, Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit, AC/DC's Highway to Hell. All songs that I had once found thrilling, now magnifying the hopelessness of the spirits around me. The rhythm of each song intensified their pain, deepening the emptiness that already consumed them. These were the songs that had once brought them comfort, but now they only served to crush their souls. Every note, every rhythm was a reminder of their failure to turn away from the world's pleasures and seek God. What struck me most, however, was the realization that some of these spirits had known Jesus during their earthly lives. It was painfully clear from the regret in their eyes. They had once known the truth, but had chosen to ignore it, swept away by the allure of music, fame, and worldly pleasures. Their souls had been lost in their pursuit of earthly satisfaction, and now, in the depths of hell, the music that had once been a source of joy for them had turned into an instrument of their eternal suffering. Their choices had led them to this place of torment. The regret they felt was so deep, so overwhelming, that it seemed to consume them completely. These spirits who had once known God were now trapped in an endless cycle of regret, unable to escape the consequences of their decisions. Hell was not just a place of fire and pain. It was a vast emptiness, a deep void created by their complete severance from God's presence. These souls were not only suffering physically, they were also tormented emotionally and spiritually, haunted by the memory of the time they had once had with God, but had squandered. The music, the familiar melodies, seemed to open deeper wounds in their hearts. The demons would play these songs on loop, reminding them of their past lives, their missed opportunities, and their rejection of God. Every note, every sound cut deeper into their hearts, further deepening their regret. The pain wasn't just physical, it was spiritual, a constant reminder of their decision to ignore God. For a moment, I felt lost in the chaos of hell, surrounded by the sounds of music and pain. It was like I was caught in a storm of my own mistakes. The ambition I had for a career in the entertainment industry, the desire for fame, the pursuit of fleeting pleasures, all of it had led me here. The music, which I had once seen as a form of self-expression, now seemed to mock me, like a reflection of everything I had sacrificed for vanity and worldly success. The more I listened, the more I realized how dangerous music could be. What had once been an innocent escape could now become a trap. For some, it was the very thing that led them away from God. I had seen it before, how people could be seduced by the sounds of the world, by the comfort of music, only to find themselves drifting further and further from the truth. I had been guilty of the same. But now, in this place, I understood the full weight of my choices. Every song I had loved, every melody that had once comforted me, was now a reminder of my spiritual blindness. The allure of the entertainment industry had captured my heart like nothing else. The thrill of fame, the excitement of performing, and the influence of my friends created an environment that seemed to promise everything I ever wanted. But what I didn't realize was that I was slowly being drawn away from the only thing that truly mattered, my relationship with God. Every step I took in the direction of worldly success and pleasure pushed me further into darkness. The more I gave in to the temptations around me, the further I drifted from His grace. At first, I didn't notice. Music, with its beats and rhythms, had always been a source of comfort, a form of expression. But over time, I began to see how the music I loved became something darker, something insidious. I thought it was just entertainment, a way to have fun and forget about life's struggles. But it became my refuge, my escape from everything that truly mattered. I immersed myself in it without even realizing how it was changing me. The false comfort I found in the world's music was, in hindsight, a hollow illusion. I had believed that it could soothe my soul, that it could fill the emptiness within me. But now, as I stood in the middle of that endless void, I realized how deeply I had been deceived. The music that once brought me joy had turned into a tool of torment. Each song I had once loved now felt like a hammer striking my soul, a relentless reminder of the path I had chosen, a path that led me further from God. It was as if every song I had once embraced now echoed through hell, amplifying the darkness around me. The melodies I had danced to, the lyrics I had sung along with, all of them were now instruments of torture. What had once been the soundtrack of my life had become the soundtrack of my damnation. Each note, each rhythm, each familiar beat was now like a shard of glass digging into my heart, reminding me of my choices, my sins, my neglect of God. The more I clung to the pleasures of this world, the deeper I sank into the abyss. I could feel the weight of my regret pressing down on me, and yet I couldn't stop. Music, which I had once seen as a tool for joy, had become a chain, dragging me further into despair. And with every passing moment, I realized that I'd become a prisoner of my own choices. In that suffocating darkness, I saw the souls around me, writhing in agony. They were like me, lost and deceived, but now they were paying the price. Some of them had known God once, but they had turned away, just as I had. The difference between them and me was that they had already crossed the point of no return. Their regret was eternal, and their pain was without end. Among the cacophony of wailing and screaming, I began to hear something strange, a song. At first, it seemed like just another melody drifting through the air, but then I realized what it was. It was a song I had heard often on Earth, a song that was popular in the entertainment industry. It was a tune that once made me feel happy, but now it filled me with dread. This was no ordinary song. It was a song of torment, a song that was being used as a tool of punishment. As I listened more closely, I recognized other songs. Songs by Michael Jackson, Madonna, Lady Gaga, Rihanna, and others. These were songs that had once been the anthems of my generation, songs that had shaped the soundtrack of my life. But in hell, they had taken on a new meaning. They were no longer just entertainment. They were instruments of torture. The demons of hell used these familiar melodies to torment the souls who had once adored them. For those who had lived for the pleasures of the world, these songs became their eternal punishment. The spirits that had once loved these songs, that had danced to them and sung along with them, now writhed in pain as the very melodies they had adored became the source of their suffering. Each note seemed to pierce their hearts, reminding them of their lost opportunities to turn to God. These songs, once symbols of worldly joy, were now symbols of regret, their rhythms like knives cutting deep into the souls of the damned. It was then that I realized the true power of music. I had always believed it was a harmless form of expression, something that could uplift the soul. But in the darkness of hell, I saw its darker side. Music could lead a person away from God. It could drown out the still small voice of the Holy Spirit, filling the soul with the noise of the world until there was no room left for God. And now, in hell, the very music that had once given me pleasure was now the thing that kept me trapped in torment. But as I looked around at the souls trapped with me, I noticed something even more haunting. Some of them had known Jesus once. I could see it in their eyes, the regret, the sorrow, the pain of knowing that they had once walked in the light of God, but had turned away, seduced by the false promises of the world. These souls were not just suffering because of the flames, but because of their separation from God. They had known His love, but they had forsaken it for the fleeting pleasures of the earth. And now, they were paying the price. Their hearts were filled with an anguish that went beyond physical pain. They were tormented by the knowledge that they had been given every chance to return to God, but they had chosen the world instead. Every melody, every song reminded them of the love they had rejected. And in that moment, I knew I was on the same path. I had loved the world. I had loved its music, its pleasures, and its fleeting joys. But now, I was beginning to see the cost of that love. I felt a wave of regret wash over me, and I understood the weight of my mistakes. I had allowed the world to distract me from God, and now I was paying the price. My soul was lost, teetering on the edge of eternal torment. I had become so far removed from God that I felt hopeless. But as I stood there in the darkness, consumed by regret, something changed within me. A light appeared. It wasn't a light I could explain. It wasn't like the light of the sun or the flicker of a candle. This light felt different. It felt alive, powerful, and filled with an overwhelming sense of love and peace. It cut through the darkness like a sword, illuminating the hopeless void around me. It was the light of God's love, shining in the deepest corners of hell, offering me one final chance for redemption. I closed my eyes, and with all the desperation in my soul, I prayed, "Lord, forgive me. Please, pull me out of this darkness. I know I turned my back on you, but now I am turning back to you. Please don't leave me here." As I prayed, the light grew brighter, surrounding me like a warm embrace. It filled my heart with a peace I'd never known, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I felt safe. I could feel the love of God wrapping around me, lifting me from the depths of despair. And then I heard it, the voice of Jesus. His voice was calm, loving, and filled with authority. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I'm here. I've called out to you before, but you didn't listen. Now your soul has returned to me, and even in these final moments, I am giving you a chance. I will save you from this place, but you must return to God with all your heart." His words pierced through my soul, and in that moment, I understood. Jesus wasn't just offering me salvation. He was offering me a chance to truly return to God, to find healing and restoration. But I had to surrender fully, with all my heart. Tears streamed down my face as I fell to my knees. "Forgive me, Lord," I cried. "I turned my back on you. I forgot you, but now I want to follow you. Please help me, show me the way." Jesus smiled, his eyes filled with love and compassion. "I am here for the salvation that has been promised. You are a new creation in Christ. The old has gone, and the new has come. You can be cleansed, forgiven, and healed." His words were like a balm to my soul, soothing the wounds that had been inflicted by my own choices. The darkness began to recede, and I could feel the warmth of God's love filling the emptiness within me. In that moment, I knew that I was no longer lost. Jesus had found me, and he was leading me back to the light. And as he continued to speak, I realized that this was not just my story. This was the story of everyone who had ever turned away from God, everyone who had wandered into the darkness, but who still had the chance to return. Jesus was offering salvation to all who would turn back to him, no matter how far they had fallen. In that moment, I understood the depth of God's love, the power of His forgiveness, and the importance of never turning away from Him again. I knew that I had been given a second chance, and I was determined never to waste it again. With Jesus by my side, I knew that I would never again be lost in the darkness. I realized how empty all the world's pleasures were, and that only God's love was real. In that moment, I fully opened my heart to Him, feeling a peace like I had never known before. The weight of the world lifted off my shoulders, and I could feel the presence of God's Holy Spirit filling me. It was as though I had found what I had been searching for all my life: a true sense of purpose, peace, and belonging. The distractions of the world no longer held any allure for me. The music, the fame, the parties, they all seemed so empty now. The pain and regret I had carried for so long began to fade, replaced by a deep sense of contentment and hope. As I sat there, surrounded by the overwhelming love of God, Jesus spoke again, gently guiding me with words that would forever echo in my soul. Turn to God, find the way to heaven waiting for you. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Matthew 7:13-14. These words hit me with such force. The road to salvation was not easy. It required sacrifice, discipline, and a commitment to follow the path God had set before me. But I now understood that it was the only path worth walking. The wide, easy road of the world, with all its temptations and distractions, only led to pain and destruction. The narrow road that Jesus spoke of, though difficult, was the road that would lead me to eternal life, to peace, and to true fulfillment. Jesus then continued, his voice calm but filled with a serious warning. Remember, you are one of the chosen. Now, you must remain faithful to God. Friendship with the world means enmity with God. James 4:4. I could hear the weight of these words in his voice. There was no room for compromise in this journey. I had to remain vigilant, making choices every day that kept me aligned with God's will. Never get caught up in worldly things again, Jesus said. Stay faithful to God. Walk in His path, because the gates of heaven are still open for you. But you must remain true to Him. His love was unconditional, but the path to salvation required a wholehearted commitment. I knew that from that moment forward, my life would be forever changed. The weight of Jesus' teachings settled into my heart. His love and forgiveness had healed my soul in ways I could never have imagined. I understood, for the first time, how much God's love had been with me all along, even in the darkest of times. I had been lost, caught up in the world's lies, but now I was found. As I reflected on all that I had been through, the fall, the darkness of hell, the torment I had experienced, it became clear to me that the trials were part of God's plan for my life. They were a wake-up call, a second chance. I could have easily been one of those souls still trapped in hell, but by God's grace, I had been pulled from the brink of eternal destruction. Now, I had a purpose: to share my story and to guide others back to God before it was too late. As I lay in the hospital bed, my body marked with the scars of my physical and spiritual journey, I was reminded of the toll that my past choices had taken. My scars were not just the result of a fall. They were a testament to the pain I had endured, the consequences of living without God. But those scars also served as a reminder of God's redemption. They were proof that no matter how far we stray, God is always ready to heal us if we turn back to Him. The doctors who attended to me were puzzled by my rapid recovery. They didn't understand how I had survived such a fall, let alone how I was beginning to heal physically and emotionally. But I knew the truth. It was God's love and mercy that had saved me, and it was His strength that was now healing me piece by piece. As I faced the difficult reality of rebuilding my life, I realized that the emotional scars were harder to heal than the physical ones. The people I had once called friends had slowly vanished from my life. They couldn't handle the new me, the one who had turned his back on the world and was now fully committed to following God. They mocked me, whispered about me, and acted as if I was a failure. But the truth was, they had never really been my friends to begin with. True friends are those who build you up in the faith, who draw you closer to God, not those who lead you astray. It was in these lonely moments that I began to understand the importance of choosing my relationships wisely. Not everyone who enters your life has your best interests at heart. Some people are sent by the enemy to distract you, to pull you back into darkness. But there are others, those who truly know God and who will stand by you in your darkest hours. These are the people who will help you stay strong in your faith, who will point you toward the light of Christ when everything else seems to be falling apart. I also learned the power of the music I allowed into my life. Music had been one of my greatest sources of distraction. It had been a tool used by the enemy to pull me away from God. But now, I knew that music could be a powerful force for good as well. The songs I once loved, which had led me down the wrong path, now seemed like chains that had bound my soul. I no longer wanted to fill my mind with the messages of the world. Instead, I sought music that glorified God, songs that spoke of His love, His grace, and His salvation. Music became a way for me to renew my mind and keep my heart focused on Him. I realized that every choice we make, no matter how small, has eternal consequences. The music we listen to, the friends we keep, the paths we walk, all of these decisions shape our lives and our souls. As I continued to rebuild my life, I made a vow to always choose what was best for my soul. I would surround myself with people who loved God, and I would fill my heart with music that drew me closer to Him. If you are listening to my story today, I urge you to make the right choices. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't let the distractions of the world lead you astray. Jesus is calling out to you, just as He called out to me. He is offering you a second chance. If you are lost, He will find you. If you have turned away, He will welcome you back with open arms. Thank you for listening to my story. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel to stay updated with new experiences and testimonies of faith. Share this video with your friends. Perhaps it will help save a soul and lead them back to God. His love and forgiveness are endless. No matter how far you've fallen, no matter how much you've strayed, God is always ready to forgive and heal. Turn back to Him and let His love guide you to a life of peace, purpose, and eternal joy. Thank you, and may God bless you.